Hello and welcome to the Critically Curious. I'm the Monk, and today we are in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, this video is going to be all about the class system within the game. Now, it's come to my attention that Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the biggest games of the year, and with that, more and more gamers are trying it out. More and more gamers that are new to the concept of D&D and Pathfinder and don't really know exactly what they're looking at, what they're choosing when it comes to the different features within character customization. Now, one thing I'll say it in every single video I do: play this game however you want. If you want to experience the story for what it is, and it is a fabulous story, then take that route. Go for the story route. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, and if you do try on the harder difficulties, if you do try on the bigger, harder, badder battles, you are going to need a character that kind of complements itself. So having an understanding of the different character classes, what exactly they do, how you're supposed to use them, that kind of thing is going to really help. And that is what this series of videos is about. It is a beginner's guide into the class system within this game. And of course, if that's the kind of video that you're interested in, or you just find this entertaining, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as I will be releasing more content on Baldur's Gate 3 as soon as I can. Alternatively, we do have an active and growing Discord. We have got Baldur's Gate players within the Discord as well. So if you want to jump in, share your journey, or perhaps you're stuck on something, feel free to join the server and come and say hello. Anyway, let's get stuck into this video. Now, we're going to go through every single class in this game, and we're going to talk about a few of the things we get with them and typically what they're used for. So let's start with the Barbarian. This is a classic D&D character. Now, this is a rage monster. Really, the Barbarian is all about that rage. So it is an ability that you can use in the game. When raging, you are stronger and you deal an extra 2 damage with melee weapons, and when throwing objects. You also have a resilience to physical damage and advantage on strength checks and saving throws. It lasts 10 turns and is really the superpower of this class. It should also be noted that you can't actually cast or use concentrated spells while you are using rage. It can be used as a bonus action, which is one of the best things about it, meaning it doesn't take up one of your actual action points. You can use rage and still attack. Now, the Barbarian specializes in close quarters combat and specializes in martial weapons. The idea of the Barbarian is you want to get them in the battle as early as possible, where they can do the most damage. One thing that should be noted is the unarmored defense. While not wearing armor, you add your constitution points to your armor class. So the higher your constitution, the more health points you have. The higher your constitution, the more defense points in armor you also have. Next up, we have the Bard, which traditionally has the highest charisma stat, but it can also be used as a pretty decent support character. In fact, the first skill they actually unlock is Vicious Mockery, which not only does some psionic damage to them, but it also insults them so bad that they get a disadvantage on the next roll. They also have a Blade Ward, which gives them half damage on certain attacks. This is an ability, however, not a passive. It is something you have to activate. They also have Healing Word, dealing 4 to 7 healing. You can heal any creature. It's a great way to heal one of your characters. When you're around, healing is kind of difficult to grab hold of sometimes, except for being able to rest. Having a character that can actually heal your party members is incredibly useful. Next, we have a spell. It is an enchantment spell dealing 3 to 18 damage. It will also inflict them with frighten, meaning that it will be easier to hit and that they cannot move or run away. So already we're a few abilities in, and you can see how the Bard is a great support character. It may not be doing all of the damage, but it's helping you do the damage and control the battle. You've also got another spell which leaves a creature prone to laughter without the ability to get up for 10 turns, which is quite lengthy in the battles of Baldur's Gate. You've also got Heroism, which you can either target yourself or a friendly character companion and make them immune from frightening and gain 5 temporary hit points each turn. You've also got Basic Inspiration, which inspires an ally and adds a 1d6 bonus to their next attack. Again, you're not doing the attack, but you are boosting your companions to do more damage. As I said, the Bard is one of the perfect characters to have in your party that can help support it in able to do almost anything, both in combat and outside of combat. I'm not saying that they are a must-have in any party composition, but I am saying they are extremely worthwhile having. And sometimes you yourself as the Bard is better than it just being one of the companions, because you know you're going to get them from the beginning of the game. Clerics are powerful spell wielders that wield the power of the god that they actually worship. Typically, they have high wisdom and high dexterity. Now, clerics have a number of different subclasses, and you can go almost in any direction with a cleric. They really are a great character that you can pick up and make do what you want. If you want a character that can able to heal your party members, the cleric will and can be able to do that. If you want a cleric to be able to wear decent armor, have a sword and shield, and stand at the front line, again, they're able to do that as well. Typically, clerics in most D&D settings are more of a support character. That's its classic role. But within Baldur's Gate 3, they have a little bit more utility. First of all, we have resistance. Make a target more resistant to spell effects and conditions. Again, you're enabling your party to hurt another character more effectively. Next, we have Guidance. The target gains a 1-4 bonus on any ability check. Next up, we have another cantrip which engulfs the target in a flame-like radiance. This deals 1 to 8 damage and has a distance of 18 meters. Next, we have Cure Wounds. Healing 4 to 11. Most of your characters are going to have around 10 HP at the beginning of the game, so this is a huge healing buff. Next, we have Guiding Bolt, dealing 4 to 24 damage, which is just a huge spell to have at the beginning of the game. Next, again, we have Healing Word. We went over this on the Bard. Then we have Inflict Wounds. This is a necromancy spell dealing 3 to 30 damage. And after that, we have Shield of Faith. Protect a creature from attacks. Increase its armor class by 2. Next, we have Bane. Up to 3 creatures receive a -1 to 4 penalty on attack rolls and saving throws. This lasts for 10 turns. And then we have Bless, which is the opposite of Bane. After that, we have Command, which is command a creature to flee, freeze, or move closer, drop to the ground, or drop its weapon. We also have Create or Destroy Water. You quite literally make it rain or destroy water based on surface. And then, in my opinion, you have a very, very useful spell. You have Protection from Good and Evil. Now, this actually protects you from elementals, celestials, fays, fiend, the undead. It's a really, really good spell and can be used to help keep your companions alive. So as you can see, the Cleric is a fantastic support character, much like the Bard, possibly even better than so, because at least with the Cleric you actually have more options to heal. Druids are one of the most interesting classes you can actually be with in the game, as they have quite a lot of versatility, and they can be a very good healer. They can also be a great tank. One of the reasons they can be such a good tank is they actually open up with the ability to shapeshift into animals, and of course you can use that animal that you've shifted into during combat. It works as an extra life, because when you shift into an animal, it has its own health pool. When that health pool depletes to 0, you shift back into your normal druid self, being able to do everything you could beforehand. So essentially you get an extra life with a druid, which is a very good ability to have. Now, the first ability you have is your staff or club becomes magical. It deals 4 to 11 damage and uses your spellcasting ability for attack roll. It does last up to 10 turns and can be used as a bonus ability. Then you have your Thorn Whip, dealing 1 to 6. It pulls a creature closer to you, so they can't run away or be more efficient with their ranged attack possibly. Next, we have Ice Knife, which is a spell. It is a 3 to 22 damage. It does do piercing and cold damage. It's a really good attack to have early on in the game. As you can see, the Druid makes the most out of spells and typically has a high wisdom stat. Other spells we have is Thunder Wave, dealing 2 to 16 damage. We can also cure wounds. We have Healing Word. And of course, we have Enhanced Leap, meaning that we can jump a further distance. And of course, by now, everyone knows to jump before engaging in combat, but it does mean you have access to the battle arena around you. Now, we can also have the ability to speak to animals. It opens up a lot of dialogue options, a lot more story, and some interesting situations. So having a druid in your party is highly advisable. You also have animal friendship, which convinces animals not to attack you in the first place. And the same for charming a person, a humanoid, to prevent them from attacking you. The druid is another great support class. It's one of those characters that you can actually take in any direction you want, so it's a safe class for you to actually experiment with. Unlike the barbarian, who would be kind of rubbish and trash at using magic, the druid can also do a bit of what the barbarian and the bard and cleric does too. Next up, we have the fighter. This is a D&D classic. Some say a must-have into every party that you have. They are absolute gold dust if you come across them and you didn't start with them in the game as well, as they typically rely on a high health bar and high strength as well. They also have something called Second Wind, in which they can heal themselves using their own stamina. So they're a good character to kind of keep alive, and typically in a hard battle, they're probably going to be the last one alive. They're someone that you want on the front of the battle, so that way your ranged attackers can do support damage. You could say that they are the perfect beginner character when it comes to this game, because you can just simply play them and allow yourself to understand the rest of the game before you take on one of the more complexing characters. Like, for instance, a monk, which is renowned for being a tricky character to get right. Now, monks are masters in unarmed combat, but they can use other weapons as well. So if you're worried about not being able to use other weapons, if you pick a monk, you can. It's just they're better actually just bare bones with their fists. Now, monks are typically characters that get better as they level up. A high level monk can be absolutely devastating on the battlefield, but you've got to get it to that stage first. Now, they do have a number of martial arts modifiers which boost their melee attack, as well as having the class action Flurry of Blows, which deals 8 to 14 damage. It's an attack that attacks twice in quick succession, and it counts as a bonus action, not just your first attack. Next up, we have the Paladin, which essentially works as your classic knight. It's one of the most famous classes within D&D and a recognizable one for most. You could say that they are a hybrid of the fighter and the cleric, the merging the two abilities together, one being able to be a frontline fighter and the other being able to heal not only yourself but others as well. These happen to be one of the few classes that are actually proficient in heavy armor from the get-go. So when you're thinking of a pure tank build, the Paladin may be your go-to guy. Now their class action is Lay on Hands, which is a healing. They also have Divine Sense, which is a gain advantage and attack roll against celestial fiends and the undead. You also have Channel Oath, which is the ability to basically channel the energy and boost yourself. And ultimately, the Paladin is a character that I would suggest more people lean to. They're pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. And don't forget, all of these classes have subclasses as well. So they're not all as simple as first seems, but the Paladin is someone that you can kind of bounce between one or the other. If you're not really sure about how you want to be within your party, what kind of role you want to take, the Paladin is something that you can choose and bounce between a couple of different roles, or cover yourself a different couple of roles if you don't have the other party members just yet. A ranger is another classic D&D character which deals specifically in high dexterity. A lot of its abilities will require you to have high dexterity. They typically have high reflexes as well to get them out of trouble. A ranger is an interesting character because not only can you go for a ranged ranger, but you can also go for a close-up melee ranger as well. You can also kind of see them as a bridge between a fighter or a druid. They also start with a familiar. They summon a familiar, a fey spirit, to take as an animal form of your choosing. This helps massively during battles, as it's something that can both attack and be a distraction for the other enemies, meaning they're not focusing on you. Sometimes it means that they can actually put a bit of a barrier between you and the enemy as well. They also have True Strike, which is the fact that they gain advantage on their next attack for the next 2 turns. So it's kind of cool. It is a concentration spell, however, so keep that in mind. Next, we have the Rogue, which is a high dexterity and wisdom focus class. Now, their action bonus is a sneak attack both on melee and range. So they share very similar characteristics with the ranger. However, these guys are sneaking around. They rely on their buffs that they can actually get from sneak attacks. So if you want to create a stealth character and you want to get those super crit bonuses from attacking from already in stealth, then these are the guys to go for. Rogues are renowned for putting up extremely high numbers when it comes to critical attack damage, both in melee combat or ranged combat. Next up, we have the Sorcerer. Now, one thing I should really mention first with the Sorcerer is that they can actually use weapons. They can use quite a few different weapons. However, with the Sorcerer, you want to focus on their casting spells because it's there where they actually come into their own. They are a little bit more of a simplistic wizard, and if you're not quite sure how to play a magic focused character, then the Sorcerer is a great way to get into that class and feel what it is about. They also come with 3 subclasses, each with their own unique twist, so check it out before picking. Now, the Sorcerer does come with a number of spells from the beginning. Bone Chill is a really nice necromancy. You've got Acid Splash, True Strike, and of course you've got Light as well. So if you don't have Dark Vision, for instance, Light could be really bloody useful. But quite honestly, Magic Missile is my go-to with this character. It's one that I just absolutely spam, dealing 6 to 15 damage. It's a really good one. It shoots 3 magical darts, each of them doing a bit of damage. Just remember that the Sorcerer doesn't have a great deal of health because they can't really wear a lot of armor. So they're a little bit spongy. So look after them, keep them at the back of the battlefield. Next up, we have a Warlock. Now, Warlocks are typically a very good spell casting unit. They're able to use a number of different spells. Not as many as Wizards, however, and they don't have the typical spell slots like Wizards either. They have their own spell slots. And instead of needing a long rest, they can actually recover their spell shots from a short rest, which is really useful. They start with Eldritch Blast, which deals 1 to 10 damage, and they also have a Blade Ward as well. Next, we're on to the classic wizard character. This is the Gandalf of the D&D world, and it's where you unlock the true power of wizards, of all magic. The subclasses are really good. The leveling scale with a wizard is phenomenal. You can really be your true beastie self as a wizard, but they do take a little bit more prep work. In terms of leveling up a wizard, you'll want to focus on intelligence. The higher your intelligence, the better. And one thing that should be noted is that wizards cannot wear armor, so they are extremely spongy. You want to keep them at the back of the battlefield. They can use weapons, but you want to really be using your spells instead of that. Conjure up whatever you want, throw fireballs down at them. Just do whatever it is you want to do safely at the back of the field. But guys, that is about all I have for you in this video, going over every single class in the game. The most powerful classes I've got to be probably the Wizard, the Paladin, and the Fighter, perhaps even the Cleric as well. If you go as any one of those characters, you're going to have an absolute blast, but feel free to experiment. Choose the class that most excites you, because after all, this game is all about having fun. And of course, if you're brand new into this game and not sure what you want to do, where you want to go, perhaps pick up the Fighter for now, just so you understand a few more of the mechanics. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video and want to see more just like it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget we do have an active and growing Discord as well, with more players in there to help you and to share your story with. But until next time, I've been a monk, you've been a Critically Curious, and I'll see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.